Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Dawn Sampel, and I'm happy that you're here to join me as I talk about what would be my graduate thesis idea. So, in the purpose of this paper, what am I hoping to write about? It seems to me presently in public schools that high school choir directors have gradually over time been avoiding religious music in their classrooms. This feeling is unwritten, it's not really talked about, and is done as a precautionary measure to ensure comfortability within inside the classroom, whether this is comfortability that comes from parents or school boards or administrators. And music teachers are trying to be sensitive. They're using their discretion to maintain this elevated level of comfortability and learning in their classroom, but at the cost, they're evading these major historical staples that could be used because they happen to be associated to religion. Sacred music could be used as a fundamental component to teach history, to teach culture, and why music exists. So what I'm hoping to be able to discover through my research is whether or not this notion is true, and if sacred music is or is not being incorporated into secondary public choral curriculums. So the purpose of this is to try to understand that right now in the year 2020, there is this current climate of cancel culture, and has it integrated its way into public school choral programs where sacred music is being removed. And is this true, or is this a misconception? The background of it. So what would be the problem? Teachers are removing this historical staples not because that they don't help teach, not because of any other reason except for this fear, this unnerving feeling that they would get this pushback. Parents and community members for years have been able to influence curriculums and influence school boards and kind of set their mark about what happens inside the classroom. And it seems right now that more than ever, it's being able to be done, for better or worse. And as a result of it is the censoring of removing this sacred music to be replaced with another piece that may or may not be a better fit. And why is this important to look at? Well, when coming into the teaching world, it's students first. And the students that we teach and we educate, it is our obligation to provide them the best education that we can. We owe it to them. And so when I have students that come into my choir, I am very well aware that some of them may never be professional performers. But I'm also aware that there could be students who would be, that would want to go on and work professionally in the music career, and I owe it to them to provide them the best education that I can. And so as I'm working with vocal students that are singing in French and Italian and different languages, and we're looking at all sorts of music, do I remove any of these staples for the student that may be associated with sacred music? Because there could be a student at another district who is receiving this education. And when those students leave, and what is their expectation of prerequisite knowledge when going into this field? Will my student, because it was in a censored setting, not receive the same quality and not be set up for the same success? So social factors I want to be able to look at. What's happening in the world around us. And I also kind of want to look into what are effective developing strategies that could be used to incorporate the sacred music into the program. When going into this research, there could be implications. I'm going to be asking, and I'll continue on this further, but I'm going to be asking teachers anonymously to submit to me what has been their repertoire for the past couple of years. will these teachers then feel judged that maybe in their program I could discover they're just doing songs from the radio? Maybe I could discover that they are doing a lot of sacred music. Maybe I could discover that their program is growing or struggling. Or so with that, would they censor what they provide me because they don't want to feel judged? And unique to this study is the actual definition of what is considered religious music. When looking at, for instance, maybe a spiritual that is not religious in nature, but it has the word God in it, or the word Lord, or the word Alleluia, would that be avoided? Just even having some words that are specific in text. So when going through my data, I would set, this is my definition, and this is how I'm going to categorize the data that I'm receiving. When trying to do religious music research for what's going into the public school setting, I was able to find policy papers. I was able to find court cases where it was school board versus community, but I was pretty hard pressed to find using religious music in New York City or the New York area. I was able to find religious music in Georgia, but I don't feel that that would be necessarily applicable, which leads me to believe that this is an area worth studying to be able to kind of discover new ideas. So when trying to find through scholarly search engines, when going through the Five Towns website, I was able to find court cases, but nothing recently either, which I do find interesting. And so I'm able to discover that there is evidence where teachers have academic freedom and they're able to choose their own pieces. One court case was in the 70s where it was with the Sioux Native American tribe, and the teacher was using Silent Night. The idea of pushback was, you're using Silent Night for your holiday concert because it's evangelizing, when the defense was, I'm trying to use this piece to teach musical concepts. So there's proof that there's academic freedom and there's availability to be able to use these pieces, but it seems that every time there is pushback documented. So for this study, I'm hoping to be able to do research in this specific way. Here's going into what would be my delimitations. I'm hoping to look at public schools, because public schools would be different than parochial. I'm hoping to look at choirs because I want to see lyrics. I want to see that difference than if it was religious music for a band or an orchestra. I want to look at secondary because I want to see major historical staples. I don't necessarily want to look at, did the elementary school do Frosty the Snowman? I want to see some more major works. I want to look at Westchester because that is where I work. That is where I'm building my career here. And the river towns. The river towns is the western side of Westchester. A good equivalent would be if you're looking at Nassau County. You'll have Nassau North Shore versus Nassau South Shore. You'll have the river towns of Westchester, which would be the western side, and it's where I work. So any biases, I do happen to be religious in nature, but I do not feel like that would impede on any objectivity. I do support using religious and secular and all different types of music in my classroom because I want to be able to provide a holistic education. I truly believe that this is a sensitive topic that many teachers don't want to discuss, especially before tenure. And So there's this extra level of being cautious. And I think being cautious in the classroom is a good thing. But I also think that teachers should be able to provide these major musical staples to these students. So when looking at the data, I'm hoping to do it quantitative. I want to be able to very clean cut see how many pieces are being used, how many are not. And I'm asking teachers to be able to send me their information anonymously. I don't want teachers to feel like anything that they share could come back. But by asking them, okay, well, what has been your repertoire? What have you sung? What have you done? I get to then go through the pieces and discover and decipher, okay, did it use religious text? Is it religious in nature? Is it a sacred piece? So the variables would be these lyrics. It would be figuring out, okay, when you're having the students sing this text, what are you having them do? These samples are not going to be random. I am going to be asking participants to submit through a Google form so I can see exactly what will come my way. So how am I going to kind of get it across? I'm going to send it out via email. I don't anticipate there being gatekeepers along the way. Potentially, if they are, they could be administrators to the district. They could be the chair of a music department. But through quick emails back and forth, I do not anticipate there being issues to collect this data. So the survey is going to be via Google Forms. I'm hoping to receive the past 4 years. The reason why I would say the 4 years, which will get me 8 concerts if it's a winter and a spring, because that is the life of a high schooler, freshman to senior year. Anything after that, I feel teachers could recycle pieces, as often they do, and you will see the same pieces resurface itself. What would I constitute as adequate? I'm hoping to receive at least the past 2 of the 4 years. That will give me at least what is in the recent years of what's happening. How would I get permission? I get permission by when I'm actually handing or emailing this form. I hope to introduce it in a way that allows them to understand that by completing it and submitting it back to me, they're granting me the permission to use this data in my research. Because it's done anonymously, there will be no pre and post tests. I am hoping that the answers are honest and accurate, and I feel like they will be because I am doing this anonymously. So how is it being analyzed? I would put in the definition of what is going to be considered religious versus non-religious text and triangulated information. Because I'm doing it anonymously, it's going to be hard to do based on area. If I was to triangulate, I could also see, okay, if they're doing a NYSSMA choir piece, being that it's a harder piece versus an easier piece, is it a NYSSMA level 2, a NYSSMA level 3, 4, so on and so forth, does that necessarily mean that they take that religious risk? I don't know. It would be quantitative data to be decoded. And to sum this up, I'm hoping that when asking these teachers to submit this information, that I do receive the feedback that I'm looking for. I believe I will. I'll do it anonymously, and I'm hoping it to be for the lifespan of what would be a high school choir student, which is 4 years. I'm hoping with all of this collected data, I can really discover if there are correlations between these pieces and if religious music is being used or not. So my anticipated results is that high schools will use songs that have words, for instance, like God or Alleluia or Lord, sparingly, but not necessarily sing religious music and text. I think that in today's day and age, there'll be more modern pop tunes being used. I think that the data collected will support my initial hypothesis that schools are straying away from religious pieces. And I think that because of how sensitive it is, getting it anonymously will definitely help in my research collection. So problems that may occur that could be avoided would be getting responses back from the district. And these problems, I'm hoping, could be avoided by technically doing a greater sample. Maybe not just looking at the river towns, but looking at Westchester as a whole, and seeing other schools in this area. So what am I hoping the implications? I'm hoping to shed light on this topic, positive or negative, and how far this cancel culture and this censorship has worked its way into the music classroom. I'm hoping if, after this, after discovering if cancel culture is present or not present, where is it coming from? I feel like would be a study that would go beyond this. Is this cancel culture coming from the teacher having a personal bias? Administration, is it coming from the universities that are teaching the